Hi guys, it's been a while since I've done a video. I wanted to come on here and just kind of update you guys and give you a little information on a type of therapy that has been super helpful to me. It's not super common, not every therapist uses it. It does require special training on the counselor's behalf, but it has been so incredibly helpful. I cannot even put to words. It's remarkable. It sounds crazy, but it works. It may not work for everyone, but it definitely has worked for me. So it is called EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization reprocessing. So basically, it's almost like they put you into REM, which is, that time when we're sleeping. That
in a quarter mile, slight left onto Reflectance Road.
Sorry, my GPS was talking. So anyway, it puts you into something similar to REM sleep while you're awake. It's not hypnosis.
Take the next left onto Reflectance Road.
It's not anything crazy witchcraft or voodoo. It's pretty interesting because I've had several different therapists.
Continue on Reflectance Road for half a mile.
This type of therapy, and while the end result is the same, the way that they get there is kind of different. So some use a single finger, and it's almost like they're doing a field sobriety test, when you're on the side of the road, and hopefully you're not on the side of the road, but when someone is on the
in a quarter mile, continue straight onto Halfway Creek Road.
Being under the influence, that is something that law enforcement uses to identify whether they have a nystagmus.
Continue straight onto Halfway Creek Road.
Some therapists use a single finger. Some use two. Some, just gotta watch the road for a minute. Some go up top to down below. And then my therapist that I've been seeing for, I guess a year and a half, 2 years.
Continue on Halfway Creek Road for 12 miles.
She just uses her whole hand, and she goes pretty quickly. They ask you to bring up a distressing thought, memory, negative cognition that you may have about yourself, and then that REM allows your brain to kind of sort those thoughts and then reframe the negative thinking that you may have about it. So for instance, with my son, Hamilton, he was very, very sick. At 23 weeks, we found out that he had a severe form of spina bifida, hydrocephalus, heart defect, a whole lot of stuff going on. And at that point in 2007, they did not have the medical advances that they do now, where they are able to do surgery in utero to repair basically the nerves and spinal cord is exposed and then just covered with a membrane sac, if that makes sense. So anyway, my baby boy was very, very sick. They told me that he would likely be stillborn, If he were to live, they said that his quality of life would be very, very poor. They told me that he would not walk, that I guess what I'm trying to say is just it was very, very bad prognosis. Me personally, I grew up Southern Baptist. I'm a Christian, still have those, beliefs that, life is precious. So, the doctors at the Medical University of South Carolina, which is like our top hospital in South Carolina, basically were telling me that, and this was a specialist, this was OB, this was a pediatrician, this was a genetic counselor. We met with them all. It was an hour and a half ultrasound, and it was a full day of meetings with doctors that specialize in this. And they basically told us that we had a week to make a decision of whether we were going to induce labor and basically terminate the pregnancy, or allow it to go to term and see what happens. I battled with, afterwards, we did make the decision to have Hamilton early. And afterwards, I really struggled with the thought that, I had aborted my baby, like I had killed him, that I just had all of this baggage that I was carrying that was just so upsetting. So much guilt, shame, and I could what if it to death, and that's what I did. What if we would have just, went to term? What if the doctors are wrong? And they're showing us on ultrasound, you can see, the sac where his nerves and spinal cord and everything were exposed. And then whenever I gave birth to him, it was still, just as we had seen on the ultrasound, only just worse because it was in person. So after giving birth, he ended up living for 2 hours and 40 minutes. He was 1 pound, 1.4 ounces, 12 inches long. At the time, I had a Razor cell phone. And he was literally the size of, from my fingertip to the bottom of my palm, same size as my phone. And it was one of the most difficult things that I have had to endure. And for years, I felt like I had killed my child. After several sessions of EMDR, I want to say it was either 2 or 3, we did reprocess those thoughts of guilt and shame and hurt and just grief and loss and anger and just everything that kind of gets wrapped in to losing a child. The way I see EMDR is if every thought, memory, everything that's going on in your brain, if it was all written down on a piece of paper and you're sitting on a chair in the middle of a room without windows, and there are fans in each corner, blowing all of these papers, all of these memories, all of these thoughts, blowing them around the room, and you just feel overwhelmed, anxious, depressed, all of the things. EMDR takes those papers. So we decide we're going to work on this sheet of paper, this loss of my son, and we're going to hold it, and then we're going to work through it. And it's almost like there's a filing cabinet that I never knew was there. And we open up that filing cabinet and we put that memory in there and then close the door. If I ever, want to think about my son, which I do every single day, I can open that drawer and he's still there. Like, I haven't forgotten him. But I don't have all of that negative feelings and just so much bad. Instead, I was able to reframe my thinking, and on my own, like literally they're just doing their thing and then asking you what you're thinking, and your brain is processing. And I ended up leaving the last session of us reprocessing that particular trauma with the thought that I made the most loving decision that I could for my child with the information that I had been given and the research that I had done. And that is completely different than carrying around the feelings of, I killed my child. So, and I've processed different things. I have a lifetime of trauma, and I'm not even being dramatic. Childhood trauma, adult trauma, work trauma, so personal, professional, just the full gamut. So plenty of stuff to process, but as I'm doing it, I'm able to deal with those feelings in a better way and be present for my kids. So the past couple of weeks, I've struggled with buying things. Like, I felt like there's just this emptiness inside of me. And it feels like what I've heard like a drug addiction to feel like. So, you take that first drug and you get that first high and you feel good. But you never get that same high ever again. You're constantly chasing the dragon, as they call it. So for me, that addiction, which sounds so silly when I put to words, but is shopping. I have this hole, and inside of me, it feels like, and this void. And so I'm literally just stuffing things in bags, literally, as I'm shopping and trying to fill this hole. Obviously that does not work for the long term. And the more that I've done it, it's helped less and less. So I got to the point where it wasn't helping. I had spent way too much money, and I would get overwhelmed because the house was a mess. So then I would have this idea of, let me just get out of the house. And it was like, it's a habit that I have, or an addiction, I guess, to go shop. I love thrift shopping. So while I may be only spending, $20 at Salvation Army and $15 at Goodwill or whatever, I would be going to multiple thrift shops, at least 4, maybe 5 in one day. Sorry, I didn't mean to turn my camera on. And that stuff adds up. So yeah, I was getting things for very cheap, but it adds up. I was just grabbing things, trying to fill that hole, and bringing it all home and having to wash clothes and find homes for things, and my house is still not clean, but I've brought in all this extra stuff that I need to put away now. So basically it got to the point yesterday where I hit my breaking point, and I'm like, all right, Chris, here are the credit cards. I have not
In half a mile, turn right onto State Road S10 1032, Steed Creek Road.